we're going to take questions from Dave Beeston, co-chair of Fenway Sports Management, as well as Kevin Acklin, president of business operations for the Penguins. Dave is going to start with some opening remarks from the Fenway group.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you for coming. This is a tough day for the Pittsburgh Penguins. On behalf of John Henry, Tom Werner, and the entire FSG ownership group, I'd like to thank Brian, Ron, and Chris for their contributions. While we all agreed that it was time for a change, it doesn't impact how difficult the decision actually is. It's never easy to part ways with someone, and it was particularly difficult to do so given the quality of the individuals. It's also a frustrating day because for the first time in 16 seasons, our regular season has ended, and we aren't getting ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs. FSG's attraction to the Penguins was and remains the incredibly rich history of championships and the amazing fan base in the city of Pittsburgh. Our goal is to compete for the Stanley Cup every year. We believe deeply in this core and are disappointed that our season isn't continuing. While the decision was made to part ways with Brian, Ron, and Chris, the responsibility for our results does not fall solely on them. John Henry, Tom Werner, myself, Mike Sullivan, all of our players and staff are responsible for how the season ended. We're a team, and our successes and failures come as a team. Looking forward, we are excited and optimistic about the future. We'll get to work immediately on building a hockey operations department that can match our ambition. One that is best in class and provides our staff and players with opportunities for success on a daily basis. That will start by running an immersive process for our next hockey operations leader. In the interim, we're thankful to Alex Shaw, Andy Saucier, Eric Heasley, and of course, Mike Sullivan for taking on more responsibility during transition. Thank you.
Rob Rossi on the right. We'll get to everyone.
Hey, Kevin, this is kind of a multifaceted one, so I'll try to be concise. What are you looking for in terms of the structure of your hockey operations department? Previously, it was a president and a GM. Also, is there any plan to appoint sort of head of the Penguins CEO, or are you going to move forward with just the president of the business side and that? And also, what qualifications are you looking for in the hockey ops hires?
All right, I'll try to remember some of those questions. I'll start with how we're organized now, which is, so Fenway Sports Group, John Henry and Tom Werner are the principal and chairman of the company, and they're responsible for the oversight of the Penguins like they are for our other teams and other assets that we have. The way we operate is that John and Tom are responsible for the business and the sporting side. So Kevin reports in through John and Tom, and the new hockey operations leader, whoever we hire, will also report in through John and Tom. They've asked me, I'm based in Boston, they've asked me to take on a sort of more day-to-day role in Pittsburgh. And so I'm working with Kevin and working with the entire team in Pittsburgh on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I'll just add, it's a partner. What we have right now is a partnership. To Dave's point, this ownership group is very active in everything that's happening in this team on the hockey operations side and on business operations. And certainly, coach is a partner to the GM is a partner on the business side, and we all obviously report up through ownership. So, obviously we're starting this process. We're going to start to evaluate candidates. We're going to do this as a team in an open and transparent way, and hopefully find a great partner who can help, give the city again the type of team that it deserves.
For Dave, just what went into the decision to move on from Hextall, Pryor, and Burke at this time, and is this a decision you think would have happened if the Penguins had made the playoffs?
I think that the way we've thought about our hockey operations department generally is, we want to be forward thinking, we want to be proactive. Ron and Brian and Chris were great, and they served a great role. And look, we are all disappointed in the way the season ended, but we're really focused on the future and moving forward.
Seth.
My question's for Kevin, please. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you were involved when Ron, Mario, and David decided to hire Brian.
I was.
What do you recall? What was attractive to them, or what fell into wanting to hire?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for prior ownership as to what their decisions led to, but I'll just echo what David mentioned earlier. This is intensely difficult. You have two quality human beings who have families, who are very well respected in hockey circles. Not everything that happened to the team is their fault. I think everybody can take that to account. But Ron and Burke were hired at the time because the ownership in place at the time felt that they were best to move forward. And my expectation is, with John and Tom and Dave's leadership and guidance, we're going to find a leader who will again bring us back on the ice next season. So I was involved. It was different circumstances, with Jim Rutherford leaving voluntarily. Little different circumstances, but I have confidence in this ownership team that we're going to run a process that's going to put forth the best candidate who can help us win next year, because that's what matters.
Dan in the middle.
Question for Dave. It seemed in the past couple of years there were competing objectives between rebuilding a prospect pool and winning now. What's the philosophy going forward with the ownership group?
Yeah, I think the commitment that was made last summer, re-signing our key players that were free agents that were part of this core forever, Gino and Chris, sort of spoke to the commitment and where our focus is. And we think that, like I said in my statement, we think this is a team that's completely capable of competing for Stanley Cups moving forward.
Josh?
This is for both of you. I'll start with Dave, though. You have an older team, but you have a unique circumstance because you also have one of the greatest players of all time on your team. He has a couple of years left on his contract. How important is it to FSG that Sidney Crosby never plays for another NHL team? And what kind of a role might he play in everything that's going on this summer, just given who he is?
It's very important that Sidney Crosby does, never plays a game in another uniform other than Pittsburgh Penguins. I can't speak to, we're day one of thinking about this, so I can't speak to any role that anybody's going to have moving forward.
Wes?
To Dave or Kevin, you mentioned that Mike Sullivan will have a bit more responsibility here in the upcoming weeks or so. Is he expected to remain coach heading into next season?
I think the answer to that is we think Mike Sullivan is one of the best coaches in the NHL. He was extended last season. Once we bring in a new hockey operations leader, he or she will be responsible for evaluating the coaching staff, but we think Mike is terrific and his whole staff is terrific.
Jeff?
Dave, what are the traits you're looking for in a new general manager, and what do you want to bring aboard?
It's a great question. Like I said to Josh, we are day one, and so that process will begin immediately. When I said immediately following this, and we'll move forward and start to put together a list of what those traits are, what those characteristics are. But right now, it's a clean slate, and so we're going to start identifying those traits shortly.
Dave, FSG was new to hockey when it bought the franchise. I'm wondering what you've learned over these 2 years, and also would the pool of prospects be limited to people within the hockey community, or are you open to sort of bringing somebody from outside in?
Are you applying?
Huh? Yeah.
The second question is, there's no limit right now. We will, I am sure, develop a list and then winnow it down. I can promise you that it will be a robust process. There is nobody that's been pre-identified. There's nobody. It'll be a full process. We've learned a ton it's a year and a half, and really this was our first full season as sort of overseeing the team. And so, look, it's a great organization. There are incredible people working for the Pittsburgh Penguins on both the business side and on the sporting side. We are ecstatic to have them and learned a lot from them and are taking those learnings sort of elsewhere as well.
For Dave or Kevin, your competition is already working on draft preparation and that kind of off-season work. What is your timeline for a new GM?
As soon as possible without rushing it. We want to make sure we get the right person in place and that we've run a thorough process, but we do know that the draft is coming at the end of June. We have a scouting department that has been preparing for the draft for the better part of the season, so all of those processes will take place with Alec and Andy and Eric and Mike, but we would like to get somebody in sooner than later without ever compromising quality.
Seth?
Just to clarify, would you anticipate there being a president of hockey operations or some sort of equivalent, and would that person then be in charge of hiring a GM, assistant GM, et cetera, et cetera?
There's no, at the moment, there's no parameters or no set format for what we're gonna hire. I think that, what we've learned in all of our endeavors in sport is that these jobs are not one-person, two-person jobs. They are entire department-wide, and so what we're focused on building is a hockey operations machine, and something that can build on what we've already got, which is exceptional, and improve it. So whether that looks like a president, and GM, 4 assistant GMs, I'm not sure, and I don't think we have any preconceived notion of that yet, but that's sort of open for discussion.
2 more, Jeff?
Kevin, how does the team stand as a business, and how much did missing the postseason impact the bottom line?
So we're as strong and as healthy as we've ever been, and that's because of one reason, that's because of this fan base. No matter how well we did this season, and we had some streaks where we were winning, we had some streaks where we were losing, but people show up, and I think that is a testament not only to our fan base, to what sports means to the city of Pittsburgh. Growing up here, understanding that the Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins were what carried this city through some very difficult times, and so we've had a very successful year. A lot of hard work has been gone into engaging with our fans, understanding how we get people to come to the arena to support this team. And on the business side, we understand our sole goal is to generate the resources to provide hockey operations what it needs to win. And certainly I can speak for Dave and for ownership that this ownership group is intensely involved. Dave and I talk every day. You're here, I think you were here for most of the games this year. You would have saved money if you bought a house here versus what you spend at the hotels, but, and I have a realtor for you. But at the end of the day, we understand our role is everybody who works for this organization, from the ticket takers at the arena up to my role on the business side, is we're here to support this team so we can win. And certainly that is what's most important to this ownership team.
Last question, Josh?
Guys, we haven't seen Mario around much the last year. I know he still owns a very small share in the team. Is he still involved with you guys at all? Do you have conversations with him at all? And do you want him to be involved at all moving forward?
Yeah, Mario is responsible for this franchise being in Pittsburgh. We know that even in Boston, we know that Mario is responsible for this franchise being in Pittsburgh. He still has a small piece of it. I think I won't speak for Mario, but he has been living and breathing the Pittsburgh Penguins for 35 years, and I think he was very much entitled to a year where maybe he wasn't around as much. He is, of course, not only welcome but wanted back whenever he wants, and I expect that'll be the case going forward. But yeah, working with him, getting to know him through this process was such a special gift for me. Yeah, he's incredible.
And I'll just add to that, I talked to Mario this morning after the news broke. He obviously talked to ownership as well, to Tom directly. He was at a game a couple weeks ago during his fantasy camp. We're also partnering our foundation. The Pittsburgh Foundation is a square partner with the Lemieux Foundation. So to Dave's point, he earned some time on the golf course when he sold most of his interest, but he still cares about the team, and obviously we'd love to see more of him at the arena, and that's something that we'll keep engaging with over time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.